Good evening. My name is Jeff Shea. I'm the town engineer for Simsbury. And I want to just bring you up to date on the conceptual designs that we have right now for the connection that's been discussed tonight for the Tariffiville connector. First of all, I just want to give you a little perspective. Again, as they had said, this is the context of the East Coast Greenway within, oops, not working very well here, within Connecticut. You can see it runs up through. The connector would be up in this area, and it would connect back down to Hartford and then go east into Rhode Island. So that's kind of the big picture of the East Coast Greenway in Connecticut. The Hartford spur, the Tariffiville connector piece that we're talking about tonight, would provide a connection from Route 10 and 315 through Tariffiville, Bloomfield, Windsor, Hartford, and again connect east to Rhode Island ultimately. The town in Bloomfield, which we have representatives here tonight, John Tesey, the town engineer, is here for any questions, has funding for 2.2 miles for this connector. That'll actually terminate 0.4 miles south of the Simsbury line. And that is designed, it's funded, and it's probably going to go to construction either this year or next year. So the trail is coming this way, and it's going to, unfortunately, at this point, be terminating south of our town line. But again, there's that 0.4 mile gap expected in Bloomfield. So this Tariffiville connector will complete the connection from, again, Route 10 to the Bloomfield town line. And this green dotted line represents that section of roadway. So the section 15 is the portion that's funded. 16 would be the connection back into Simsbury. So the connector, the conceptual designs, and I want to stress these are conceptual designs. This is very early in the design process. We're just looking at options and opportunities to make these connections. And there's actually 3 separate sections that were completed at different times. The Route 10, the Tariffiville Park section, I believe you're all familiar with. It was developed 4 years ago in 2011. It was presented to the public at some level. Because there was no sort of through trail at that time, it was only a portion of the trail, I guess we weren't as excited about the opportunity. So more recently, the 2 other sections were looked at. As part of the Tariffiville Master Plan, as Jerry Toner had mentioned, we looked at what the community, at least on a preliminary level, wanted for facilities in that area, and looked at what the opportunities may be for trails coming through Tariffiville Park. And the last section, which we just looked at this past year, was the section from Tariffiville Park to the Bloomfield town line, and we developed an initial concept plan for that section. So I want to look at each of the sections in a little more detail. This slide just shows you some of the unique benefits and challenges that we're going to face to try to get this trail connected. We have many different conditions. We have certain wet areas down in the Oxbow area. And we also have potential boardwalks that might have to be developed at certain areas to affect the minimal impact on the environment and the floodplain. So the first section, Route 10 to Tariffiville Park, again, we have several alternative routes that were developed back in 2011. There was a riverine route, and I'm going to jump between slides here, and I apologize for the graphics. They're not the best. This being Route 10, this being 315 into Tariffiville. The riverine route is this route here that runs along the river, pretty much all the way to Tariffiville Park. Most or all of that land is owned by the town of Simsbury. It is in the floodplains. There are wetlands. So there's significant environmental challenges to get that potentially built and permitted. There's also the Route 315 Governor's Bridge route, and that route follows, again, 315 through the use of the embankment adjacent to 315, potential relocation of 315 to accommodate a trail, And this dotted white line that's hard to see is a boardwalk. That's another option in that area. And this trail would follow 315 as far as possible. And it could potentially go in several different directions. It can go over the CL&P right-of-way area. It could go through a secondary property owned by the Tariffiville Water Company, or it could use the access road, the emergency access road through Governor's Bridge. So we have those two primary routes, and then there's, again, various hybrid routes with slight variations. The Wardell St. John's property option would bring the trail along the river and then potentially across the Oxbow back to 315, either in that area or a bridge in this location across onto the, again, the Riverine Trail. So those are the options available right now. Again, we want to discuss and get input on what you think of those options. These are some of the more difficult areas, I think, in terms of developing this connector. So discussion and feedback is very important to moving forward with the project, if in fact that's the desire of the community. The last piece of that connection, and I don't have very good plans on this, is the connection, potential connection between Governor's Bridge and Tariffiville Park. And if this option was desirable, we would need to obtain easements through properties, and there's potential various ways that we could get there depending on the opportunities with respect to wetlands and floodplain. So this particular area hasn't been studied in great detail, but there seems to be a riverine route, potentially a route through the park, and possibly a route through private property. And again, we really haven't looked at that in great detail. So that brings us to Tariffiville Park. This is a graphic that was developed in draft form from the Tariffiville Master Plan. The green lines represent potential trail locations through the park, with some secondary potential loop trails that generally follow existing trails and gravel roads or former roads that existed in Tariffiville Park. That, again, this would be the riverine route coming out of the Governor's Bridge area, and this would be the route through the condominiums located just north of Governor's Bridge. The last section would be from Tariffiville Park to the Bloomfield Town Line. And again, I apologize for the graphics. This is the best we could get. But this basically follows from the border of Tariffiville Park, the entrance, down Main Street Extension, through DEP property that's is between the Farmington River and Main Street, which would be north of all the commercial development, and then back out onto Route 189, following down adjacent to Route 89, but separate for safety purposes to the town line. And again, this seemed to be the preferred route. We discussed the Main Street route as a possibility, but we felt there might be too much congestion in that location. Certainly there would be an opportunity for people to travel up here to take advantage of the businesses in that area. So that summarizes pretty much what we have on the table right now for concepts. And again, these are very early stage concepts, trying to look at all potential opportunities. And these are just some bullet points on that last section. Again, located next to Route 189. 3 crossings would be required, which are really the only road crossings on the whole trail system, potentially. Farmington River section, obviously along the back of Main Street there, would need DEP approval since it is their land. And Main Street extension would be the only on-road section potentially looking at the options for the trail. So with that, I guess we're going to open it up to questions, Tom.